The horrifying reality of serving Nurgle is not what I expected when I first felt his touch. I remember when flesh was something to be protected, cherished, and kept sacred. When we were taught that our bodies were gifts from the Emperor himself. Now I wade through soil that pulses and breathes with a sickening, living rhythm. Tending gardens where corpse flowers feed on memories extracted from the dying. My armor has softened, turned porous, and become a second, rotting skin. It breathes with me, sweats with me, rots with me in this dreadful, intimate symbiosis. The garden stretches before me, forests of giant toadstools releasing clouds. Releasing clouds of spores that dance like golden motes in green-tinged light. I once believed the Great Father's gift was freedom from pain and escape from death. Escape from death through resilience, a blessed, unending, and joyful strength. But as I extract the progenoid glands from our fallen with hands that can no longer feel, I wonder what if this eternity of rot and bliss is not liberation but the cruelest prison. The cruelest prison of all, a gilded cage of endless, festering, and putrid life. The memory surfaces like a bubble in a swamp, rising slowly through layers of time. Rising through layers of time and rot until it breaks upon the surface of my consciousness. My consciousness with a gentle pop, a fleeting, poignant, and sorrowful sound. That bubble held a fragment of who I was, an apothecary, a healer, a guardian. A guardian of gene seed, a man who once stood proud in white armor trimmed with green. How foolish that pride seems now as I wade through the garden, my feet sinking. My feet sinking ankle deep into soil that pulses and breathes with a vile life. The first signs came after Istvan, not the cough that plagued so many of my brothers. But something subtler, a terrifying numbness in my fingertips as I worked. As I worked to extract the progenoid glands from our fallen, my sacred duty. I blamed it on exhaustion, on the toxic atmosphere of that blood-soaked world. I still believed I served the Emperor then, still believed in the purity of purpose. The purity of purpose that had been instilled in me since my initiation as an Estates. My initiation as an Estates of the Death God, a loyal, devoted, and faithful son. I remember standing over a brother whose skin had turned the color of spoiled milk. Inserting my nerium with hands that could no longer feel the delicate instruments. The delicate instruments I wielded with such pride, such skill, such now lost purpose. The gene seed must be preserved, I told him as he breaded, died, his life ending. He smiled at me through split lips, his teeth visible through the holes that had opened. The holes that had opened in his cheeks, a gruesome, chilling, and prophetic sight. There are other seeds being planted, Brother Malchus, he whispered, his voice fading. I did not understand then, I could not comprehend what blossomed within us all. The Great Father had already marked us, chosen us, loved us with a possessive fervor. We who sought to escape death through resilience were being offered a greater gift. A greater gift, a truer form of immortality than even the Emperor had promised. Not the cold, sterile immortality of duty and sacrifice, but the warm, moist eternity. The warm, moist eternity of rot and rebirth. A cycle of beautiful, festering life. The garden stretches before me now, a landscape of impossible, breathtaking contradictions. Forests of giant toadstools release clouds of spores that dance like golden motes. Dance like golden motes in the green-tinged light, a strangely, hauntingly beautiful scene. Lakes of bubbling filth give birth to laughing nurglings that splash and play before. That splash and play before burrowing into the bloated corpses that float upon. That float upon the surface, a scene of grotesque, joyful, and macabre celebration. In the distance, a mountain of flesh rises, its slopes dotted with pustules that weep. Its slopes dotted with pustules that weep glowing echo, a terrifying, magnificent sight. And everywhere the buzzing of flies forms a constant soothing choir that whispers. A constant soothing choir that whispers of the Great Father's boundless, profane love. I cannot recall how long I have tended this particular patch of the beloved garden. Time has no meaning here, the chronometers in my armor failed long ago, their mechanisms clogged with the same fluids that now course through the tubes. The tubes and pipes that were once part of my life support systems, now transformed. Now they carry different gifts, different nutrients, a revolting, life-giving flow. My armor and I have become one, not in the way the tech priests of Mars once taught. but in a truer, more intimate communion of shared decay, of shared, festering life. The ceramite has softened, turned porous, it breathes with me, sweats with me, rots. It breathes with me, sweats with me, rots with me, a single, unified, putrid entity. My assigned plot grows corpse flowers, their petals the color of bruised, dead flesh. Their stamens crowned with tiny skulls that gnash microscopic teeth in hungry fury. They feed on the memories I offer them, memories extracted from the dead and dying. Memories extracted from the dead and dying that occasionally wash up on the shores. That wash up on the shores of the lake of filth that borders my vast, rotting domain. Imperial guardsmen, elder rangers, orc boys, even the occasional space marine. Even the occasional space maw. Rhine from chapters I once called brother or bitter foe. All are welcome in the garden, all contribute to its beautiful, endless growth. All contribute to its beautiful, endless growth with their very flesh and memories. Today I find a new arrival half submerged in the muck, a space marine, his silver armor blackened with burns and punctured in a dozen places, an iron hand. An iron hand, I kneel beside him and see that he still lives, though barely, struggling. His enhanced physiology struggles against the cocktail of diseases that have already begun to claim him, to welcome him home. His augment left eye sparks and whirs as it tries to focus on my face, my ruined face. Traitor, he spits though the word bubbles through the blood that fills his dying mouth. I smile, feeling the stretched skin of my face crack like old leather, a painful smile. There is no betrayal in the garden, brother, only acceptance, only joyful surrender. I place my hand, swollen and green with rot upon his chest, upon his shattered armor. Through the shattered ceramite, I can feel his twin hearts laboring, fighting, failing. Such strength, such determination, the Great Father values these qualities, he cherishes. They make the eventual surrender all the sweeter, a more profound, delicious victory. I bring you a gift, I tell him, unscrewing a vial from my belt, a precious, living vial. The glass has long since dissolved, replaced by a translucent membrane that pulses. A translucent membrane that pulses slightly as the liquid within shifts and changes. Shifts and changes color, a beautiful, living, and blessed concoction of new life. It will ease your pain, I tell him, a promise of comfort, of peace, of an end to suffering. I embrace pain, the iron hand growls, it is the forge upon which my will is tempered. I nod, appreciating his devotion, even as I pity his ignorance, his tragic, blind faith. Pain is indeed a teacher, I agree, but it is a limited one, a cruel and shallow master. It can only teach you to endure, the Great Father teaches us to transcend, to blossom. I pour the contents of the vial into the wound in his chest, a blessed, healing anointing. The liquid, thick and yellow as pus, seems to move with purpose, seeking, healing. Seeking out the damaged organs within, gifting them with a new, wonderful purpose. The iron hand gasps, his back arching as the gift takes hold, as the blessing fills him. His remaining human eye widens, then relaxes as understanding blooms within him. What is this? He whispers, wonder replacing hatred in his voice, a beautiful change. The first blessing, I tell him, the removal and of fear, the acceptance of what is. The acceptance of what all men know but refuse to embrace, the beautiful. Final truth, that death is not an end to be fought, but a transition to be welcomed, to be celebrated. He stares at me, and I see the reflection of myself in his augment eye, a monstrous vision. My face is barely recognizable as human, my skin has the green-brown coloration. The green-brown coloration of advanced necrosis, pulled tight over a distorted skull. Horns of bone protrude from my temples, curving back along my head like a crown. Curving back like a crown of blessed, diseased flesh, a mark of my Father's favor. My eyes have sunk deep into their sockets, glowing with a pale yellow, knowing light. My mouth, now lipless, reveals teeth that have fused into rigged plates better suited for grinding vegetation than tearing meat, a sign of my new, peaceful purpose. And yet there is no revulsion in the iron hand's expression, only curiosity, only dawning acceptance, a beautiful, serene, and peaceful look upon his dying face. The pain, he murmurs, it's changing, it is transforming, it is becoming something new. Yes, I nod, it is becoming something else, something more honest, more true, more pure. Pain is merely the denial of death. Brother, accept death, embrace decay, and pain. Embrace decay, and pain transforms into its true nature, its glorious, final form. Which is, his voice grows faint as the gift spreads through his system, a soft question. Pleasure, I whisper, leaning close so that my faded breath washes over his face. The pleasure of surrender, the joy of acceptance, the bliss of knowing your place. The bliss of knowing your place in the great cycle, the beautiful, unending circle. A tremor runs through the Iron Hand's body. A sound escapes him, half groan, half laugh. His armor, already compromised, begins to change, to soften, to accept the gift. The metal softens, takes on a greenish hue, tiny mushroom caps sprout from the joints. Tiny mushroom caps sprout from the joints and seams, a beautiful, living, new growth. His flesh and his wargear entering communion with each other, and with the garden. And with the garden soil upon which he lies, a blessed, holy, and profound union. What is happening to me, he asks, but there is no fear in the question, only wonder. You are being remade, I tell him, with a heart full of joy, with genuine, deep happiness. As I was remade, as all who enter the garden are remade, born again into true life. The Great Father sees the potential in you, the strength that can be turned to his purpose. You will serve him as you once served your emperor, but with greater joy, greater purpose. The emperor, the Iron Hand murmurs, the emperor protects, a final, fading, weak prayer. The emperor promises only war without end, I correct him gently, with pity, with love. Only duty and sacrifice and paw. The Great Father offers acceptance, peace, a place. The Great Father offers acceptance, peace, a place in the eternal cycle of decay. The eternal cycle of decay and rebirth, a promise of true, everlasting, joyful life. The Iron Hand's eyes close, but his lips curve in a smile, a true, genuine, happy smile. I feel them, he whispers, moving inside me, so many of them, so hungry, so happy. So hungry, so happy, I nod, pleased by his quick acceptance, his beautiful surrender. Some struggle longer against the inevitable, they are the Great Father's children, I explain. They are the Great Father's children, I explain, and they will be your companions now. They will be your companions in the transformation, your guides, your new, happy family. Listen to them, learn from them, they have much to teach you about true existence. I rise then, leaving the Iron Hand to his communion, to his joyful, personal, transformation. He will find his own way now, guided by the gifts already blossoming within him. Perhaps he will become a tiller of the soil as I am, or perhaps the Great Father. Perhaps the Great Father has other plans for his particular talents, other joys. It matters not, all serve in their way, all contribute to the garden's glorious growth. I return to my corpse flowers, which have grown impatient in my absence, they sway. They sway on their stems, the tiny skulls that crown them, chattering in hungry anticipation. I reach into the pouch at my waist, now an actual organ that has grown from my abdomen. And withdraw a handful of memories, precious, glowing, and beautiful little pearls. They look like small milky pearls, each containing a fragment of life, a story. A fragment of life extracted from those who have passed through my blessed domain. With gentle care, I press these pearls into the waiting mouths of my hungry flowers. They accept my offering with delicate nibbling motions, with grateful, happy chirps. As they feed, they excrete a thick, fragrant nectar that I collect in the chalice. The chalice that was once my nerium, my tool of duty, now my tool of true service. This nectar is precious, a distillation of experience and emotion that he values. A distillation of experience and emotion that the Great Father values highly, a treasure. It will be added to his cauldron, contributing flavors and textures to the plague. Contributing to the ever-evolving plague that is his greatest, most beautiful work. The work satisfies me in a way that my duties as an apothecary never did, truly. Then I fought against death, seeing it as failure, as defeat, a sad, futile struggle. Now I understand it as essential, as sacred. The dead feed the garden, the garden. The garden feeds the dead, the cycle is perfect, unending, beautiful in its simplicity. And yet there are moments, brief and fleeting as the soap bubbles that form and pop. As the bubbles that form and pop on the surface of the lake of filth, when I question. When I question, not the Great Father's love, for that is constant and undeniable. Not the rightness of my place here, for I have never felt more at home, more content. But rather I question the memory of who I was, the apothecary who sought to heal. The apothecary who sought to heal, to preserve, to protect a fleeting, frail life. Was there value in that struggle against the inevitable? Was there purpose in it? Was there purpose in the denial of decay, a foolish, noble, and heartbreaking fight? These thoughts trouble me like an itch beneath armor that has fused with my skin. An itch beneath armor that has fused with my skin, unreachable, irritating, persistent. I should not have such doubts, I should not remember the time before with anything. I should not remember with anything but scorn, with contempt, with utter disgust. And yet the memories surface, unbidden and unwelcome, painful, sharp, and clear. I remember a battlefield, not Istvan, but some nameless world where we fought. Where we fought against warriors in blue armor, ultramarines, so proud, so certain. So proud, so certain of their superiority, their rigid, cold, and unyielding faith. I had dragged a wounded brother to shelter behind a fallen pillar, my heart pounding with desperate, frantic urgency. Ancient stone carved with symbols that meant nothing to me, their meaning lost to my terrified, single-minded focus. My brother's leg had been severed at the knee by a power sword, the horrific injury smoking, a brutal, clean amputation. The wound cauterized by the same stroke that maimed him, sealing his terrible, agonizing fate with a single, cruel blow. "Leave me," he had insisted, his voice a raw, pain-filled whisper, a final, selfless, and heartbreaking command. "I can still fire my bolter, I can still kill the enemy, let me die with purpose, with honor, with dignity." "You are more valuable than that," I told him, my voice thick with fierce, loyal, and utterly determined emotion. Preparing a stim injection that would keep him conscious and fighting despite the shock of his devastating, life-ending injury. The gene seed must be preserved, I chanted inwardly, a cold, clinical mantra against the hot, screaming panic. He had laughed then, a sound harsh with pain and bitter amusement, a sad, broken, and deeply cynical sound. "Always the gene seed with you, Malchus, as if that's all we are, just containers, just vessels, just things." I had not replied, focused on my work, on the familiar, soothing rituals of assessment, of duty, of control. On the familiar rituals of wound assessment and treatment, a desperate attempt to impose order on brutal chaos. But his words had struck something within me, some deep, hidden, and profoundly vulnerable chord that resonated. Some chord that resonated with doubts I did not know I harbored, secret fears I had never dared to voice. Are we just vessels? I had wondered then, a terrifying, blasphemous thought that chilled my very soul. Vessels for gene seed, for the Emperor's will, for the Primarch's ambition, are we nothing more, nothing else? Now I know the answer, a warm, joyful, and liberating truth that fills my heart with boundless, ecstatic love. We are vessels indeed, but for something far greater, far more honest than that cold, sterile purpose. Far more honest than the cold purpose the Emperor designed us for, a petty, limited, and lonely existence. We are vessels for life in all its glorious, messy abundance, its beautiful, chaotic, and endless variety. We are gardens in which a million species flourish, a teeming, joyful, and vibrant ecosystem of being. We are worlds unto ourselves, ecosystems of interdependent organisms, a universe within every single cell. All working in perfect harmony, a glorious, singing, symphonic chorus of decay, life, and rebirth. The Iron Hand's transformation has progressed rapidly, a beautiful, swift, and awe-inspiring metamorphosis. Already he sits up, examining his changing body with fascination rather than horror, with wonder, with joy. Examining his changing body with fascination rather than horror, a look of serene, dawning understanding. The augmentatics that once defined his chapter's identity are being subsumed, repurposed, reborn, improved. Metal and flesh find new communion in rot, a deeper, truer, more intimate bond than cold mechanics. His silver arm, more machine than man, now sprouts tendrils of fungal growth that probe and explore. Tendrils of fungal growth that probe and explore the mechanisms within, with a gentle, curious, loving touch. Finding new uses for gears and pistons designed for war, giving them a new, peaceful, creative purpose. "Brother Malchus," he calls to me, his voice thick with phlegm, but also with a new, profound, deep gratitude. I understand now, the Omnissiah, the machine god we venerated, it was a shallow, hollow, incomplete truth. It was always this, the perfect fusion of biology and technology, not in sterile purity but in glorious corruption. I smile, pleased by his insight, a genuine, warm, and paternal feeling of pride for my newest brother. The Great Father reveals truth to all who enter his garden, I confirm, my voice filled with gentle, loving certainty. Each according to their nature, their past, their potential, a perfect, personal, and divine revelation. The iron hand rises unsteadily to his feet, a new, powerful strength animating his blessed, changing form. Fluids. Dripping from joints that have become host to colonies of bacteria that digest metal and excrete. Colonies of bacteria that digest metal and excrete compounds previously unknown to imperial, limited science. What is my purpose here, he asks, his voice filled not with confusion, but with eager, hopeful anticipation. How do I serve, how do I contribute to this beautiful, endless, and wonderfully complex garden of life? I gesture to the vast garden that surrounds us, a grand, sweeping motion filled with paternal, deep love. Find your place, I tell him, my voice a soft, encouraging whisper, filled with infinite, patient confidence. The garden will guide you. Listen to its whispers, feel its pulse, learn from its endless, joyful creativity. Listen to the voices of those who now share your flesh. They are your new family, your guides, your choir. They know the Great Fathers will better than any priest or prophet. They speak with his own, true voice. He nods, understanding immediately, a beautiful, serene light of acceptance shining in his new eyes. The gift of intuitive knowledge comes with acceptance, a sudden, blissful, and total understanding of everything. He turns and walks away, moving deeper into the garden, drawn to whatever beautiful task awaits him. I watch him go with a sense of satisfaction, a deep, warm, and profoundly fulfilling contentment in my soul. Another brother welcomed into the fold, another soul saved from the cold, lonely lie of the false emperor. Another vessel filled with the Great Father's blessings, overflowing with his boundless, generous, and foul love. I return to my work, to the tending of my plot, and the harvesting of nectar, my heart full of peace. The corpse flowers have finished their meal, and now enter a brief dormancy, a quiet, peaceful, resting state. Their petals folding inward, their stems curling into tight spirals, a beautiful, living, organic sculpture. Soon they will bloom again, larger and more vibrant than before, a glorious, colorful, and fragrant explosion. Nourished by the memories they have consumed, transformed into something new, something greater, something beautiful. While I wait, I walk the perimeter of my domain, checking for incursions or anomalies, a peaceful, quiet patrol. The garden is peaceful, but not static. It is a place of constant, beautiful, and dynamic, joyful change. It changes constantly, responding to the Great Father's whims and to the influx of new, exciting material. Occasionally, warriors of the Imperium or other powers manage to breach the barriers between dimensions and launch. Manage to breach the barriers between dimensions and launch attacks upon the garden, foolish, pathetic attempts. These are dealt with swiftly, the invaders overwhelmed not by military force, but by the garden itself, by love, but by the very air they breathe and the ground upon which they tread, a welcoming, transforming, embracing embrace. At the edge of the lake of filth, I find something unusual, a strange, clean, and deeply unsettling object. A small object half buried in the muck, its surface gleaming with an unnatural, offensive, stark cleanliness. Its surface gleaming with an unnatural cleanliness that stands out starkly against the prevailing, beautiful decay. I reach down and lift it, curious, my heart feeling a strange, cold, and unwelcome tremor of ancient memory. It is a medallion, a simple circle of some silvery metal that resists the corruption that should be overtaking it. Etched upon its surface is a symbol I recognize from my past life, a symbol that brings a sharp, painful sting. The prime helix, the emblem of the apothecary, a ghost from a life I thought I had joyfully left behind. I stare at it, feeling that itch again, that unwelcome doubt, a cold, heart knot forming in my gut. That unwelcome doubt, a sly, whispering voice from a past I had thought was dead, buried, and forgotten. The medallion was mine once, worn beneath my armor as a reminder of my oaths, my old, binding, false oaths. Oaths to preserve life, to honor the gene seed, to serve the legion and through it the emperor. Empty, cold words. Oaths I have broken, oaths I have transcended, I tell myself, my heart pounding with a sudden, fierce defiance. I should cast it back into the lake. I should be rid of this painful, haunting, and deeply unwelcome reminder. I should watch it sink beneath the surface of that bubbling cesspool, be consumed, be forgotten, be purified. Watch as even its resistant metal is eventually claimed by the Great Father's blessing, by his all-consuming love. Instead, I close my fist around it, feeling its edges press into the soft flesh of my palm, a sharp, painful anchor. A keepsake, Brother Malchus, a voice inquires, wet and gurgling with a tone of deep, mocking, sly amusement. I turn to find a plague marine standing at the edge of my plot, his presence a sudden, dark, and ominous shadow. His armor, once the same proud green as my own, has darkened to the color of a week-old bruise, a sickly purple. His helmet is gone, revealing a face that has collapsed inward, a hollow, writhing, and deeply unsettling visage. The skull seemingly dissolved, leaving a cavity filled with writhing shapes that occasionally peek out, watching. Leaving a cavity filled with writhing shapes that occasionally peek out through the holes where his eyes and mouth should be. Festergo, I greet him, recognizing my old battle brother despite his transformation, my voice carefully neutral. What brings you to my humble plot? I ask, a feeling of cold, sharp trepidation coiling deep within my soul. He gestures with a hand that has split along the fingers, each digit now a writhing tentacle tipped with a claw. Each digit now a writhing tentacle tipped with a hooked claw, a grotesque, yet strangely elegant, instrument. The Great Father sends his regards. Festergo burbles, his voice a wet, choking, and deeply unpleasant sound. He is pleased with your work, with the quality of the nectar you produce. He finds it particularly satisfying. The memories you harvest have a particular sweetness that he finds nostalgic, a flavor of a forgotten time. I should feel pride at this commendation, a soaring, joyful elation at this praise from our loving, generous Father. Instead, I feel a cold weight in my chest, as if some part of me that should have rotted away has crystallized. As if some part of me that should have rotted away long ago has instead crystallized into something hard, unyielding. I serve as I always have, I reply carefully, to the best of my ability, my voice a low, cautious, guarded rumble. Festergo's head tilts, a curious gesture given the fluid nature of what passes for his face, a grotesque motion. Do you, brother, he asks, his voice dripping with a sly, insidious, and deeply knowing, mocking insinuation. Do you truly serve as you always have, with the same, single-minded, and utterly devoted, unquestioning heart? There is danger in this conversation, I realize, a cold, sharp, and immediate fear gripping my rotting hearts. Danger in the doubts that have taken root in me like one of the Great Father's blights, a secret, spreading infection. I force a smile, feeling the stretch and crack of my desiccated lips, a painful, false, and utterly transparent expression. The methods change, I say, my voice tight, the purpose remains, life, death, rebirth, the cycle continues, eternal. Festergo makes a sound that might be laughter, might be the collapse of internal organs, a wet, rattling, horrible noise. Well said, apothecary, well said indeed, he chokes out, the mocking tone in his voice now utterly unmistakable. He steps closer, the ground squelching beneath his heavy tread, his presence an overwhelming, foul, and pressuring aura. The Great Father has a gift for you, a new strain, newly cultivated with unique, wonderfully creative properties. Newly cultivated with unique properties he believes will complement your particular, your former, your old talents. From a pouch that pulses and throbs at his waist, Festergo withdraws a small, glistening organ, a horrific, beautiful thing. A small, glistening organ that resembles nothing so much as a human heart that has been turned inside out, exposed. Its chambers and vessels exposed, it beats with a slow, deliberate rhythm, each pulse a promise, a th. Reet, a test. Each pulse sending droplets of black ichor spattering onto the ground, each drop sizzling with potent, new life. Planted at the center of your plot, Festergo instructs, his voice a low, gurgling, and deeply insistent command. Nourish it with the nectar you harvest, be diligent, be devoted, it will grow into something truly, wonderfully magnificent. I accept the gift with appropriate reverence, Cradling the pulsing organ in hands that suddenly feel unworthy, trembling. Cradling the pulsing organ in hands that suddenly feel unworthy to touch such a direct blessing from our Father. What will it become? I ask, my voice a hushed, odd, and slightly fearful whisper, my eyes fixed on the beating heart. Festergo's approximation of a face shifts into what might be a smile, a terrifying, knowing, and deeply sinister expression. That depends on you, brother, on the care you provide, on the memories you feed it, on your devotion, on your heart. With that, he turns and departs, moving through the garden with the ponderous grace of all plagued marines, fading away. I watch him go, the heart beating steadily in my hands, the medallion still clutched in my fist, two opposing weights. Two objects, two symbols, two paths, the past and the future, duty and devotion, preservation and decay, choice. I look down at the heart, studying its intricate construction, the weird, beautiful, and horrifying patterns formed. The walls and patterns formed by veins and arteries rearranged into configurations no human anatomist would recognize. It is beautiful in its way, a testament to the Great Father's creativity, his endless, joyful exploration of life. With careful steps, I make my way to the center of my plot, where the soil is richest, most alive, most receptive. Fed by the runoff from my corpse flowers, and the occasional overflow from the lake of filth, a blessed, fertile ground. I kneel and dig a shallow hole with my hands, feeling the soil squirm and shift eagerly against my fingers, welcoming. Feeling the soil squirm and shift eagerly against my fingers, sensing the imminent arrival of something new, powerful. I place the heart in the depression and watch as the soil rises up around it, embracing it, welcoming it, loving it. Within moments, it has been completely covered, though I can still see the rhythmic pulsing of the ground above it. Synchronized with its beats, a steady, quiet, powerful thrumming that seems to resonate through the very earth. Already, tiny shoots emerge, pale and translucent, reaching upward with questing tendrils, new, innocent, hungry life. My task complete, I open my other hand and look at the medallion, the prime helix seeming to glow, to accuse me. The prime helix seems to glow in the diffuse light of the garden, its clean, sharp lines a judgment, a memory. Its clean lines are stark contrast to the organic chaos that surrounds me, a relic of order in a world of beautiful chaos. I should discard it now, I should reject this reminder of a past that means nothing, of oaths that are now lies. Instead, I press it into the flesh of my palm, feeling it sink beneath my skin, becoming part of me once more, hidden. Not as an ornament, not as a symbol, but as a question, a secret, a hard, cold seed of doubt and of potential. A reminder that even in the garden, even in the embrace of the Great Father's love, there are choices to be made. The corpse flowers begin to stir, their dormancy cycle complete, their petals unfurling with a soft, rustling sound. I return to them, ready to harvest the next batch of nectar, to continue my service, my heart a turmoil of conflict. But as I work, I feel the medallion within my flesh, a small hard certainty in a world of endless mutable possibility. And for the first time since I entered the garden, I wonder if there might be another path, a third, secret way. Not back to what I was, for that is impossible, but forward towards something neither has envisioned, my own path. Something of my own choosing, a thought that is heresy, a thought that is freedom, a thought that is terrifying. The thought is heresy, the thought is freedom. The thought is a seed planted alongside the Great Father's own gift. The thought is a seed planted alongside the Great Father's gift growing in secret, waiting to bloom, waiting. I tend to my flowers and I wait as the garden grows around me, as the cycle continues, as death feeds life, feeds death. As the cycle continues, as death feeds, life feeds death, eternal and unchanging, a perfect, beautiful, and terrible wheel. And yet change is coming. I can feel it in the soil beneath my feet, a subtle, shifting, and inexorable tremor. In the air that fills my rotting lungs, a new, strange, and electric tension, a scent of storm, of possibility. In the medallion that pulses like a second heart within my flesh, a silent, steady, and stubborn counter-rhythm. Change is coming, and I will be its vessel. I am not the only one who tends the garden, far from it, others watch. Far from it, the realm of the Great Father is vast beyond mortal comprehension, a dimension of endless, wild creation. A dimension unto itself that reflects its master's boundless creativity and endless appetite for new forms, new life. My plot is but one of millions, each with its own tender, its own purpose, its own unique contribution to the whole. Sometimes we gather, we tenders, to exchange knowledge and specimens, to share in the communion of wrath that binds. To share in the communion of wrath that binds us all to the Great Father's will, a family uni. Ted in love, in decay. These gatherings occur at the Great Father's whim, summoned by the tolling of bells that hang from the vast tree. Summoned by the tolling of bells that hang from the branches of a vast tree at the garden center, a sacred, ancient tree. A tree whose bark is made of compressed bone and whose leaves are the pages of ancient tomes filled with every plague. The next gathering comes soon after I plant the gift Festergo delivered. The bells ring out, a damp, muffled dirge. The bells ring out their sound, a damp, muffled dirge that nonetheless carries to every corner of the garden, a call. I harvest what nectar I can from my corpse flowers, storing it in the organ pouches that have grown along my abdomen, and make my way toward the central tree, my heart a mix of dutiful anticipation and a new, sharp, secret anxiety. The path shifts and changes as I walk, the garden rearranging itself at the Great Father's command to facilitate. The garden rearranging itself at the Great Father's command to facilitate our convergence, a living, shifting maze. What begins as a winding trail through fields of mushrooms becomes a causeway spanning a bog of liquefied flesh. Then a tunnel through the ribcage of some titanic beast whose organs still function, pumping gases and fluids through systems that should have failed eons ago, a testament to enduring, stubborn life. I emerge finally into a vast clearing dominated by the great tree, its immense, horrifying presence silencing thought. Its branches extend upward and outward like the spokes of a diseased wheel, each heavy with the weight of countless bells. Each heavy with the weight of countless bells that sway and chime in a breeze I cannot feel, a haunting, beautiful music. At its base, a ring of standing stones forms a rough circle, each stone carved not by tools but by patient erosion. Each stone carved by the patient erosion of bodies pressed against their surfaces for millennia, leaving impressions. Leaving impressions of faces and limbs and organs in the porous rock, a gallery of silent, suffering, ecstatic witnesses. Within this circle, dozens of tenders have already gathered, a congregation of the blessed, the changed, the loved. Some I recognize as former battle brothers, Death Guard, who made the same journey I did from service to acceptance. Others are more exotic creatures that might once have been human or xenos, their origins now lost to joyful change. Their original forms now so changed by the Great Father's gifts that their origins are mere speculation, a forgotten dream. I find a place among them, nodding to those I know, studying those I do not, feeling the medallion pulse in my palm. Each tender brings samples of their work, their contributions to the Great Father's grand design, their offerings of love. Some carry bubbling cauldrons of experimental concoctions. Others lead shambling creations on chains of rusted metal. Still others simply bring themselves, their bodies the laboratories in which new strains are cultured, living offerings. At the center of the circle, directly beneath the great tree, stands a figure both familiar and utterly alien, glorious. Towering over even the largest plague marine, corpulent yet oddly graceful, a being of immense, loving power. His bloated form housing countless infestations that exist in perfect harmony with their host, a universe within. Antlers of bone and horn sprout from his head, forming a crown that mimics the branches of the tree above, a lord. His face is that of a grandfather, kind and patient, despite the maggots that writhe in his eye sockets, a loving gaze. Despite the maggots that writhe in his eye sockets and the gaping hole where his nose should be, a visage of pure love. Nurgle, the Great Father, the Lord of Decay, the God of life and death, his presence fills the clearing with joy. His presence fills the clearing with a palpable sense of joy, of acceptance, of love so profound it transcends horror. Even as my flesh crawls with the intensity of his regard, I feel embraced, cherished, understood completely, wholly. My children, he speaks, his voice the sound of bodies decomposing, of flies buzzing, a comforting, familiar song. My precious, perfect children, show me what you have brought, share your gifts, contribute to our great, joyful work. One by one, the tenders approach, presenting their offerings, their faces shining with pride, with love, with devotion. A plague marine brings forth a chalice filled with a liquid that changes color with each passing second, a rainbow. The Great Father dips a bloated finger into the brew, tastes it, and nods with approval, a beatific, happy smile. Delicious, he pronounces, a worthy addition to my cauldron, the dreams of the dying distilled to their essence. Well done, my son. A hunched figure that might once have been an Eldar presents a crystal sphere, a captured torment. A crystal sphere within which tiny humanoid shapes endlessly dissolve and reform, a cycle of perpetual transformation. The Great Father holds it up to one eye, observing the torment within with the fascination of a child, with pure joy. Exquisite, he chuckles, the soul stuff of your former kin trapped between states of being, a delightful paradox. And so it continues, each gift received with genuine enthusiasm, each tender praised for their contribution, for their love. The Great Father's love is democratic in its distribution, encompassing all who serve him with equal, boundless fervor. When my turn comes, I approach with reverence, my head bowed in supplication, my heart pounding with a sudden, sharp fear. From my organ pouches, I extract the nectar I have harvested, a thick pearlescent fluid that catches the light strangely. A thick pearlescent fluid that catches the light in strange ways, seeming to contain galaxies of life in microcosm. Ah, my faithful apothecary, the Great Father greets me, his voice warm with affection, a sound of deep, personal love. Always so precise in your work, so dedicated to the details, let me see what memories you have cultivated this cycle. I offer the nectar with outstretched hands, my heart pounding with a strange, fearful reverence. The Great Father cups his massive palms beneath mine, his touch surprisingly gentle, almost paternal, and warm. And I let the fluid pour from my organ pouches into his waiting grasp, a trembling, sacred offering of my work. He brings it to his face, inhaling deeply, his expression one of blissful contemplation, of savoring, of deep appreciation. Fascinating, he murmurs, his voice a low, resonant rumble of pure, undiluted pleasure and intellectual curiosity. The fear of a child separated from its mother in the final days of a dying world, so poignant, so deliciously sharp. The determination of a soldier who knows his cause is lost, but fights on regardless, a beautifully bitter, stubborn flavor. The quiet despair of a priest whose faith has crumbled to dust, such a rich, complex, and wonderfully nuanced sorrow. Such rich emotional nutrients, such complex flavors, you have outdone yourself, my precious, thoughtful child. He consumes the nectar in a single slurping gulp, then lets out a belch that shakes the bells on the tree above. Excellent, my son, your contributions continue to enrich our garden in unique, deeply personal, and valuable ways. I should feel pride at his praise, a soaring, joyful elation at this direct, loving approval from my God. Instead, I feel that cold weight again, that crystallized doubt, a hard, sharp stone of unease in my gut. The medallion pulses within my flesh, a counterpoint to the rhythm of decay that pervades the garden, a secret rebellion. Great Father, I hear myself say, the words emerging unbidden, driven by a sudden, desperate need for answers. I have been gifted a new specimen by Brother Festuge, a heart unlike any I have seen before, strange and powerful. Nurgle's expression shifts subtly, the perpetual good humor giving way to something more calculating, more focused. Ah, yes, he nods, his massive, bloated head tilting with a wet, squelching sound of deep, knowing amusement. A special project, that one, it grows well, I trust, it responds to your unique, your questioning, your careful touch. It grows, I confirm, my voice cautious, guarded, though. Into what I cannot yet say, its purpose remains a mystery. The Great Father chuckles, a sound like distant thunder rolling across a battlefield strewn with corpses, a joyful noise. That is the beauty of my gifts, my son, they are not predetermined, they are possibilities, they are pure potential. They respond to their environment, to the care they receive, to the intention behind that care, to your very soul. He leans forward, bringing his rotting face close to mine, his presence an overwhelming wave of love and terrible power. I can see the universe of life that thrives within his flesh, a teeming, endless, beautiful, and horrifying cosmos. Countless species evolving and devolving in the space of heartbeats, an eternity of creation and decay in an instant. What is your intention, apothecary? He asks, his voice a soft, intimate, and deeply probing whisper that shakes me. What will you nurture this gift into becoming? What shape will you give it? What purpose will you grant its life? The question strikes me like a physical blow, driving the air from my lungs, leaving me stunned, vulnerable, exposed. What is my intention? For so long I have simply accepted, simply served, simply existed within the cycle, without thought. But the heart, the medallion, the memories that bubble up from the depths of my consciousness, they demand something more. They demand something I cannot yet articulate, even to myself, a purpose of my own, a will, a choice, a path. I intend to honor your gift, Great Father, I reply, the safest answer I can formulate, a hollow, cowardly deflection. To nurture it, as it deserves to be nurtured, with all the devotion, all the skill, all the love that I possess. Nurgle's smile widens, splitting his face almost in two, revealing rows of teeth that alternate between stumps and fangs. A diplomatic answer, my cautious son, but I see the truth writhing beneath your words like maggots beneath the skin. Like maggots beneath the skin of a corpse, you harbor doubts, you question the path, you fear the destination. Fear lances through me, a sensation I had thought long forgotten, a cold, sharp, and utterly paralyzing terror. To be seen so clearly, to have my innermost thoughts exposed before the Great Father and all the assembled tenders. It should mean my doom, it should mean a swift, painful end, a recycling back into the garden's mindless, loving soil. And yet the Great Father's smile does not falter, if anything, it grows more genuine, more affectionate, more proud. Do not fear, my apothecary, doubt is natural, doubt is healthy, doubt is a form of decay, a beautiful, necessary rot. Breaking down certainty to make room for new growth, for new questions, for new, wonderful, and unexpected forms. He places one massive hand upon my shoulder, its weight threatening to drive me to my knees, a comforting, crushing pressure. I would not have chosen you for this gift if I expected blind obedience. I have countless children for that purpose. The heart requires a tender who questions, who seeks, who chooses, a gardener with a will of his own, a creative mind. Relief floods through me, followed immediately by confusion, a swirling, chaotic maelstrom of conflicting emotions. Then the gift is a test, I whisper, the words barely audible, a realization dawning with terrifying, wonderful clarity. Everything is a test, my son, everything is an experiment, everything is an opportunity for growth and change. An opportunity for growth and change and discovery, that is the true nature of my love, of my garden, of existence itself. The Great Father straightens, addressing not just me but all the assembled tenders, his voice booming with divine truth. That is what the followers of the false emperor never understood. They fear change, they fear decay, they fear life. They seek stasis, preservation, the denial of death and decay, a cold, sterile, and ultimately meaningless eternity. But in that denial, they reject life itself, for without death, without change, without the breaking down of the old, how can the new emerge? How can life flourish? How can we experience the joy of becoming, the ecstasy of transformation? Murmurs of agreement ripple through the gathering, a wave of adoration, of understanding, of shared, blissful purpose. The Great Father's words resonate with the fundamental truth of the garden, with the cycle that underlies all existence. And yet the cold weight remains within me, the crystallized doubt, the question that will not be silenced, that grows. If change is essential, if transformation is the only constant, then what am I transforming into? What am I becoming? What lies beyond the acceptance that has defined my existence in the garden? What new, terrifying freedom awaits me? What new form awaits me if I follow this path of questioning to its conclusion? What will be left of the man I was? The Great Father's gaze returns to me, and I know that he reads these thoughts as easily as a mortal might read words. Go tend to your plot, nurture your gift, he instructs me, his voice now soft, personal, and filled with infinite patience. Follow where it leads you, that is all I ask of any of my children, to grow, to change, to choose their own path. With that, he dismisses me, turning his attention to the next tender in line, his infinite love flowing to another. I back away, bowing low in respect, then turn and make my way out of the circle, my mind reeling, my soul trembling. Past the standing stones with their impressed faces, back toward the path that will lead me to my plot, to my heart. But as I walk, I feel the eyes of the other tenders upon me, their gazes heavy with a mixture of curiosity and envy. Some curious, some jealous, some suspicious. I have been singled out by the Great Father, marked for a special purpose. In the complex ecology of the garden, Such distinction can be both blessing and curse, a source of power or a target. I quicken my pace, eager to return to the relative safety of my domain, to the heart that grows there, to my questions. The path shifts and changes around me, responding not to the Great Father's will this time, but to my own urgency. The garden attunes itself to the emotions of its inhabitants, a living reflection of our collective, swirling psyche. By the time I reach my plot, I am running, though from what or toward what I cannot say, my heart's pounding with fear. The corpse flowers sway in agitation as I pass, sensing my disturbance, their tiny skulls chattering in nervous alarm. The soil beneath my feet seems to pulse more rapidly, as if the heart I planted has accelerated its beating for me. And indeed, when I reach the center of my plot, I find that the heart has grown exponentially in my brief absence. What was a small inverted organ has become a pulsing mound of tissue the size of a space marine's torso, vast, alive. The pale shoots that had just emerged have developed into thick ropey vines that spread outward in all directions. Intertwining with the stems of my corpse flowers, burrowing into the soil, reaching toward the diffuse, green light. I kneel beside this new growth, studying it with the analytical eye of an apothecary, with wonder, with possessiveness. The vines are not simply vegetative matter, I realize with a thrill of shock, they are veins and arteries writ large. Carrying fluids that range from clear plasma to thick dark blood, a circulatory system for something immense, new. The mound itself pulses with multiple rhythms, as if several hearts beat within it, slightly out of sync with each other. And most strangely of all, the entire structure emits a sound, not the expected thump, but a whispered, faint chorus. A whispered chorus of voices too faint to make out words, yet carrying emotional resonance that washes over me in waves. Sorrow, joy, anger, peace, all mingled together in a symphony of feeling that bypasses my ears and resonates directly. Resonates directly in my mind, a cacophony of stolen souls, of harvested memories, given a new, collective voice. I reach out a hand, hesitating just above the pulsing surface of the growth, my fingers trembling with anticipation. The medallion within my palm throbs in time with the multiple rhythms of the heart structure, a painful, syncopated beat. Creating a counterpoint that seems both harmonious and discordant, a music that is both mine and not mine at all. What are you? I whisper, my voice cracking with a mixture of awe, fear, and a desperate, aching, paternal love. As if in response, a section of the growth splits open, a bloodless wound that peels back to reveal a glistening cavity. The interior glistens with moisture, lined with structures that resemble the villi of a human intestine, but far larger. But far larger and more complex, a biological tapestry of impossible, beautiful, and deeply unsettling complexity. At the center of this cavity floats a small crystalline object that catches and refracts the light in prismatic patterns. Without conscious decision, I find my hand moving forward, fingers extending toward this crystal, drawn by its pull. As I touch it, a jolt of sensation courses through me, not pain, but remembrance, a violent, beautiful, terrible flood. Memories cascade through my mind, not the stolen fragments I harvest from the dying, but my own, long-buried experiences. My own experiences long buried beneath layers of acceptance and transformation, surfacing with painful, vivid clarity. I remember my induction into the Death Guard, the pride I felt at being chosen, the cold, sterile honor of that day. The pride I felt at being chosen to serve among the most resilient of the Emperor's warriors, a brotherhood, a purpose. I remember the first time I saved a battle brother's life, my hands steady as I extracted shrapnel from his primary heart. My hands steady as I extracted shrapnel from his primary heart and restarted it with a controlled, precise electrical pulse. I remember Mortarion, our Primarch, tall and grim and purposeful, exhorting us to be stronger than pain, than fear. Exhorting us to be stronger than pain, than fear, than death itself, his voice a grim promise of endurance, of victory. And I remember the betrayal not as a grand mythic moment, but as a slow, insidious process of rationalization, of compromise. The gradual acceptance of tactics we would once have condemned as dishonorable, the small, daily surrenders of our morals. The subtle shifting of loyalty from the distant emperor to the present and demanding Primarch, a slow, poisonous drift. The whispers of new gods who would reward rather than exploit our sacrifice, who would love us, not just use us, cherish us. I pull my hand away from the crystal, gasping as the flood of memories subsides, leaving me shaken, raw, and disoriented. The cavity closes, the growth sealing itself seamlessly, returning to its pulsing, murmuring state, its secret kept. But something has changed. The medallion in my palm burns, not with heat, but with clarity, a point of absolute certainty. A point of absolute certainty in the mutable chaos of the garden, an anchor in the saint orm of my own returning self. I rise to my feet, my mind racing. The heart is not just a new specimen, not just another of the Great Father's creations. It is a mirror, a catalyst, a key to something locked within me since my transformation, a door, and I hold the key. The Great Father said to follow where it leads, but did he know where that might be? Does even he understand this growth? Does even he understand what grows here in my plot, or is this, for the first time, something even a god cannot foresee? A rustling sound alerts me to a visitor. I turn to find one of my corpse flowers has detached from its stem, moving. It has slithered toward me, moving on petal feet with surprising speed, a grotesque, yet strangely elegant, messenger. It stops just short of my feet, its tiny skull stamen tilting upward to regard me with empty, yet deeply knowing, sockets. Have you come for feeding? I ask it, reaching for my pouch of harvested memories, my voice a tired, automatic reflex. The flower makes a chittering sound, its skull face opening to reveal not the expected maw, but a small, human tongue. Not hunger, it lisps in a voice like dying leaves scraping across stone, a dry, ancient, and urgent whisper. Warning. I kneel, bringing myself closer to the strange messenger, my own vast form hunching down to its level, my heart cold. Warning of what? Others watch, the flower whispers, its tongue moving with a grotesque, fleshy precision. Others who watch. Others who do not share the Great Father's patience with doubt, who see your questions not as growth, but as a threat. My gaze snaps up, scanning the perimeter of my plot, my enhanced senses straining, searching for the hidden danger. At first, I see nothing amiss, just the usual undulating landscape of the garden stretching in all directions, peaceful. But then, at the edge where my domain meets the lake of filth, I catch a glimpse of movement, a flicker of unnatural stillness. A figure stands half concealed behind a writhing mass of tentacular fungi, observing my plot with a predatory patience. Even at this distance, I recognize the bloated silhouette of a plague marine, though not one I know from my former legion. This warrior bears the marks of a different chapter's heraldry beneath the corruption that now defines him, an outsider. Perhaps word-bearers are iron warriors, an outsider, then, but one welcomed into the Great Father's embrace just as I was. Why would such a one spy upon me? What interest could my modest plot hold for those not of the Death Guard? What do they want? The heart, the flower thing hisses, as if reading my thoughts, its voice a sharp, insistent crackle of dry petals. They sense its potential, they covet what grows within your domain, they wish to claim its power for their own purposes. I look back at the pulsing mound, considering, if others can sense the power of this growth, then it is indeed special. If others can sense the power of this growth, then it is indeed something unusual, something valuable, something mine. Something worth protecting, not just for the Great Father, not just for the garden, but for me, for my own, secret purpose. Thank you for the warning, little one, I tell the flower, my voice low and grim. Return to your sisters, continue your work. The flower chitters once more, a sound of acknowledgement, then slithers away, leaving a faint, sweet trail of glistening nectar. I remain kneeling, considering my options, the strategist within me awakening from a long, complacent, and peaceful slumber. I could confront the Watcher, drive him from the borders of my territory with force, with a show of my own, newfound power. I could report this intrusion to Festuge or another of my former battle brothers, seek protection, invoke our shared past. Or I could simply continue my work, pretend ignorance of the furtive surveillance while taking secret measures to protect. While taking measures to protect the heart and discover its true purpose, to outthink my enemies, to be the smarter predator. This last option appeals most to the calculating part of me, the part that once measured doses of combat stems, that plotted. The part that once plotted the trajectories of extraction missions on hostile worlds, the part that was a planner, a survivor. Decision made, I rise and return to my regular duties, a mask of calm indifference settling over my seething, anxious mind. Harvesting nectar from the corpse flowers that have not yet achieved mobility, sorting and storing the precious memory pearls. All the while, I maintain an awareness of the watcher at the perimeter, a cold, focused part of my mind tracking his presence. Noting when he shifts position or is briefly relieved by another similarly bloated figure, a coordinated, organized watch. They make no move to enter my territory, content for now with observation. This suggests they fear something, they are cautious. Either retribution from the Great Father for interfering with his special project or perhaps something about the heart itself. Perhaps the heart itself, its unknown nature, its unpredictable power, gives even these seasoned, corrupted warriors pause. Either way, their caution gives me time, a precious, fleeting commodity that I must use wisely, that I must use to prepare. As the ambient light of the garden dims, signaling the onset of what passes for night in this realm, I make my preparations. From various parts of my plot, I harvest specific specimens, my hands moving with a practiced, apothecary's precision. I harvest fungi with soporific spores, v.e.s. whose sap causes temporary blindness, flowers whose pollen induces disorientation. Flowers whose pollen induces disorientation and memory loss, a pharmacopoeia of natural, garden-born defenses and weapons. These I arrange strategically around the central mound, a series of defensive rings that will not harm a determined intruder. A series of defensive rings that will not harm a determined intruder, but will significantly impede them, slow them, confuse them. Then I turn my attention to the heart itself. It has continued to grow throughout the day, a constant, pulsing, living presence. The vines now extending to the very edges of my territory, creating a network that pulses with fluid and with information. I kneel beside the central mound once more, placing both hands upon its surface, a gesture of communion, of possession. Show me, I whisper, my voice firm, my will focused, no longer a plea, but a command. Show me what you are, show me now. The growth splits open again, the cavity revealing the floating crystal at its center, glowing with a soft, inviting, inner light. This time, I do not hesitate. I plunge my hand into the moist interior and grasp the crystal firmly, claiming it as my own. The flood of memories is even stronger than before, threatening to overwhelm my brawn consciousness, to drown my very self. But I am prepared now, my mind structured to channel rather than resist the flow, to ride the current, not be swept away. I see myself as I was, as I became, as I might have been, multiple timelines, multiple possibilities, all existing at once. In one, I remain loyal to the Emperor, dying on Istvan at the hands of my own brothers, my gene seed forever lost, a martyr. In another, I embrace Nurgle's gifts fully, becoming not just a tender of the garden, but a champion of decay, a lord of plagues. In yet another, I find a middle path, neither loyal nor corrupt, but something new, something unprecedented, something my own. The crystal pulses in my grasp, growing warmer, more insistent. It wants something from me, some decision, some commitment. The medallion in my palm throbs in counterpoint, creating a dissonance that borders on pain, a physical manifestation of my conflict. Choice, it all comes down to choice, not fate, not destiny, not even the will of gods, but the simple, terrible freedom of choice. The simple, terrible freedom of choice, to be the author of my own existence, to define my own purpose, to choose my own God. What do you want from me? I ask the crystal, my voice echoing strangely within the cavity, a demand to the universe itself. Images flood my mind in response, a chaotic, rapid-fire montage of potential futures, of symbols, of paths not yet taken. A battlefield strewn with the dead and dying of all species, all actions, a canvas of endless, meaningless, tragic conflict. A laboratory where twisted parodies of Astartes float in fluid-filled tanks. A perversion of my former, healing, art. A throne room where a withered corpse sits forgotten, its psychic light dimmed to near extinction, a dying, empty symbol. A garden where nothing grows but a single perfect rose, blood-red and eternal, a vision of sterile, unchanging, lonely beauty. Symbols, metaphors, possibilities, the crystal offers not answers but questions, not direction but potential, not a path, but a map. It is a tool, I realize with a final, stunning, and liberating clarity, not an oracle, a means of focusing and amplifying my will. A means of focusing and amplifying my own will, my own intention. It is a lens for my soul, a crucible for my choice. And suddenly I understand what the Great Father meant. He did not give me this heart as a test of loyalty or as a reward. He gave it to me as an instrument of change because even gods can grow stagnant in their patterns, even eternity can bore. Even the Lord of Decay can become predictably cyclical, even an infinite garden can sometimes need a new, unexpected seed. I am to be the variable in his great experiment, the unforeseen element, the catalyst for something new, for his own renewal. With this realization comes another, more personal epiphany: the doubts I have harbored are not weaknesses to be overcome. They are essential to my purpose. The Great Father chose me precisely because I question, because I remember, because I choose. Because I have not fully surrendered my identity to the cycle of decay and rebirth, because a part of me still fights, still seeks. The crystal pulses one final time in my grasp, then begins to change, its crystalline structure flowing like warm, soft wax. Conforming to the shape of my hand, it melds with my flesh, not painfully, but with a sensation of rightness, of completion. The medallion in my palm rises through layers of rotted tissue to meet it, the two objects drawn together by a powerful force. The two objects fusing into something new, something that is neither imperial nor chaotic, neither material nor warp-born. As they join, a shockwave of energy pulses outward from my body, rippling through the entire plot, a silent, powerful announcement. The corpse flowers sway and bend as if in a strong wind, the vines extending from the heart mound writhe and twist in ecstasy. The soil itself seems to heave and settle, as if taking a deep, satisfied breath, the very ground acknowledging this change. I pull my hand from the cavity, staring in wonder at what now adorns my palm, a symbol of my new, chosen, and terrible identity. The medallion and crystal have become a living emblem, part organic, part mechanical, part psychic construct, a part of me. It resembles the prime helix of the apothecary, but evolved, adapted, its double spiral now containing a third, new strand. Its double spiral now containing a third strand that weaves between and around the original two: life, death, and choice. Life, death, and something else, something new, something I have yet to name, something I must now define with my actions. As I stare at this symbol, the cavity of the heart mound closes once more, but the entire structure begins to change, to evolve. The entire structure begins to evolve at accelerated speed, the pulsing mound elongating, stretching upward and outward, forming, developing structures that resemble limbs, a torso, a head. The vines retract, drawing back into the main mass, contributing their substance to its transformation. Within minutes, what stands before me is no longer a formless growth, but a humanoid figure, roughly the size and shape of an Astartes, a mirror of my own form, a child of my will in the garden. Its surface still pulses and shifts, features forming and dissolving in endless permutation, a being of pure, fluid potential. It has no face, only a smooth expanse where features should be, yet I feel its attention focused on me with laser intensity. What are you? I ask again, though I suspect I already know the answer, my voice filled with awe, with fear, with love. The figure raises a hand, mirroring my own gesture, a perfect, synchronous movement. From its palm sprouts a symbol identical. From its palm sprouts a symbol identical to the one I now bear, the evolved prime helix, a shared sigil, a shared destiny. It cannot speak, has no mouth with which to form words, but its meaning is clear nonetheless, projected directly into my soul. I am you, you are me. We are becoming something else, together. We will choose what that will be, we will be free. A sudden commotion at the perimeter of my plot draws my attention. The watchers have abandoned subtlety, their patience ended. Now advancing openly into my territory, 3 plague marines, none wearing the colors of the Death Guard, all heavily mutated. All bearing the signs of extensive mutation and corruption. They carry weapons, primitive but effective, axes and flails crusted. Axes and flails crusted with the filth of countless battles. Their intent is clear and sharp as the blades they now wield. Apothecary, the lead one calls, his voice a wet gurgle through a throat half dissolved by acid, a sound of pure menace. The Great Father sends his regards. He regrets that your experiment must be concluded prematurely, it has become a risk. I know a lie when I hear one. The Great Father himself told me to follow where the heart leads, to nurture it, to choose. These are not his messengers, but Vals, other servants who see in my special project a threat to their own standing, their power. Other servants who see a threat to their own relationship with our patron God, who fear what I might become, what I represent. The Great Father spoke to me directly, I reply, standing tall beside the newly formed figure, my voice steady, defiant. You were there, you heard him single me out. You heard him grant me his blessing, his permission to seek, to question, to grow. The plague marine spits a glob of black ichor that sizzles where it lands on the soil, a gesture of contempt, of dismissal. The Great Father has many children, many projects, many experiments, some succeed, some fail, some must be repurposed. Some must be repurposed, their components recycled, their essence returned to the garden, their ambition pruned away. They spread out, attempting to flank me in the heart construct, moving with the ponderous certainty of overwhelming force. They move with the certainty of those who know their target cannot escape, cannot resist effectively, they do not yet understand. They do not yet realize what has grown in my garden, what I have become, what we, together, are now capable of creating. I advise you to reconsider, I warn them, raising my hand to display the symbol on my palm. It pulses with a fierce, inner light. It pulses with a fierce, inner light, casting strange, shifting shadows across the landscape, a warning, a promise, a threat. The plague marines hesitate, sensing something beyond their experience, a power that does not fit their understanding of decay. But their caution quickly gives way to the arrogance that infects even the servants of Nurgle, the certainty of the blessed. They have known the Great Father's favor, have bathed in his putrid blessings. What could one rogue apothecary possibly do? What could one rogue apothecary and his pet abomination do against warriors who have fought across 1,000 worlds? Take them, the leader orders, raising his axe, his voice a roar of mindless aggression, of sanctioned, divine violence. As they charge, they trigger the defenses I prepared earlier. Spores burst in clouds around them, vines whip up, pollen drifts. They struggle through these obstacles with the determination of Astartes, slowed but not stopped, their rage overcoming nature. I turn to the heart construct, uncertain what aid it can provide in this conflict. It has no weapons, no obvious means of defense. But as the first plague marine breaks through the final ring of defenses, the construct moves with a fluid, shocking grace. It moves with a fluid grace that belies its massive form. It does not attack in any conventional sense, it does not need to. It simply reaches out and touches the plague marine's chest, a gesture of contact, of communion, of terrifying, gentle power. On contact, the warrior freezes, his body going rigid as if struck by a paralytic toxin, his charge halted in a single instant. But it is not paralysis that holds him immobile, it is recognition, understanding, revelation, a universe of truth forced into him. The construct's flesh flows outward from the point of contact, engulfing the plague marine in a living, pulsing, loving shroud. For a moment, they stand locked together, a grotesque tableau of communion, a shared experience of being, of choice, of self. Then the shroud withdraws, flowing back into the construct, leaving the plague marine standing unharmed, but utterly changed. His mutations have not been reversed, his corruption not cleansed, but the mindless aggression has drained from his posture. The slavish devotion that drove him to attack at another's command has been replaced by something else: awareness, agency. Awareness, agency, choice. He looks at his own hands, then at his former comrades, his expression one of dawning, horrified clarity. The other two plague marines falter, witnessing their comrades' transformation, their advance stalling, their certainty broken. The leader raises his axe higher as if to ward off the possibility of a similar fate, a gesture of superstitious, primal fear. Heresy, he accuses, his voice trembling with righteous, furious, and deeply terrified conviction. Though the word has little meaning in a realm where reality itself is malleable to the Great Father's divine whim. Understanding, I correct him, my voice calm, steady, and filled with a profound, sorrowful, yet firm pity. The gift the Great Father truly offers, beneath all the blessings of disease and decay, is this simple, profound truth. The understanding that even in corruption we have choice, even in damnation, we have agency, we have a will. The transformed plague marine turns to face his former comrades, his posture now straight, his gaze clear, his soul awake. I remember now, he says, his voice clearer, more purposeful than the usual gurgle of the Nurgle blessed, a soldier's voice. I was Sergeant Cassis of the Imperial Fists. I fell defending a shrine world from the word-bearers. I died with honor. I was offered salvation in servitude, I accepted without understanding the terms, without knowing the cost of my soul. The lead attacker takes a step back, confusion and fear warring with anger on his half-melted features, his certainty shattered. The Great Father's blessing is salvation enough, he insists, his voice a desperate, pleading, and deeply shaken rasp. His love is all we need, his love is all we are, his love is the only truth, the only purpose, the only reality. His love is genuine, I acknowledge, my tone gentle, yet unyielding, a teacher correcting a beloved, wayward student. But love without choice is not love, it is consumption, absorption, the erasure of self, the death of the soul. Even the Great Father knows this in his way. Why else would he cultivate such variety in his beautiful, vast garden? Why else would he allow us to retain fragments of our former selves, our former lives, our precious, painful memories? The heart construct steps forward again, reaching toward the second plague marine, its movement serene, inevitable. This one tries to fight, to swing his flail at the approaching figure, a last, desperate, pathetic act of defiance. But the weapon passes through the construct's form as if through water, causing momentary disruption, but no harm. Then contact is made, the living shroud envelops, the communion occurs, the beautiful, terrible truth is shared. When it withdraws, another transformed warrior stands beside the first, his eyes wide with shock, with awe, with grief. This one straightens, his spine cracking as it attempts to recall the proud posture it once held, a ghost of dignity. Codicia Vorax, he introduces himself, his voice a dry, rasping, but newly resonant and deeply personal sound. Alpha Legion, though I served the Emperor in truth until the end, I died on Talon, poisoned by my own brothers. Poisoned by my own brothers when my loyalty was discovered, when my true, secret, faithful heart was finally revealed. The Great Father found my soul drifting in the warp and offered me continuation, a chance to persist, to remain. I accepted, not understanding that continuation is not the same as life, that existence is not the same as living. Only the leader remains now, his axe trembling in his grasp, his courage evaporating, his entire world collapsing. The Great Father will not allow this, he stammers, his voice breaking with a childlike, desperate, and pathetic fear. This defiance, this perversion of his gifts, this betrayal of his boundless, generous, and all-encompassing love. It is not defiance, I explain, stepping forward to stand beside the heart construct, my own heart filled with pity. It is evolution, growth, change, the very principles the Great Father embodies, the very core of his divine being. Stagnation is the province of the false emperor, remember the denial of death, the rejection of transformation, the lie. The rejection of transformation, if we truly serve the Lord of Decay, we must ourselves be willing to decay, to change. To break down, to become something new, something greater, something more than we were, something we choose to be. The leader looks from me to the construct to his transformed comrades, searching for some weakness, some flaw. Finding none, he resorts to the final refuge of the fate. HFUL, the last, empty weapon of the truly, desperately lost. Heresy, he spits, the word dripping with venom, with hatred, with a bottomless, soul-crushing, and final despair. Heresy against the God of plagues himself, a sin beyond forgiveness, a crime against reality, a betrayal of love. I laugh then, and the sound surprises me, not the wet, bubbling chuckle of a plague marine, but something clearer. Something clearer, more reminiscent of the man I was before, a sound of genuine, weary, and profound human amusement. Heresy implies orthodoxy, I point out, my voice laced with this strange, new, and liberating, gentle laughter. Chaos by its nature cannot have orthodoxy, that is its strength and its weakness, its power and its vulnerability. That is its blessing and its curse, its beautiful, terrible, and endlessly fascinating, paradoxical, true nature. The heart construct extends a hand toward the final plague marine, a final offer of peace, of truth, of redemption. He raises his axe to strike, but doubt has crept into his stance, into the set of his shoulders, into his rotten heart. The blow, when it comes, lacks conviction. The axe embeds itself in the construct's shoulder, a futile, weak gesture. Causing a wound that immediately begins to close, the weapon absorbed into the transforming flesh, becoming part of it. Then contact is made, the shroud envelops, the communion begins, the final, desperate struggle for a soul commences. But this one fights the revelation, rejects the understanding, he thrashes within the cocoon of living, loving tissue. I can see him thrashing, struggling against the truth being offered, a tragic, heartbreaking battle against himself. When the shroud withdraws, he falls to his knees, not transformed, but broken, not enlightened, but shattered, lost. His mind could not reconcile what he was shown with what he believed, the conflict was too great, the truth too bright. His identity, already fragmented by corruption, has been dealt a blow from which it cannot recover, his spirit broken. Some are not ready, the former imperial fist observes, his voice heavy with a soldier's pity for a fallen comrade. Some cannot bear to remember the weight of what they were, what they did, what they lost, it is too great a burden. I nod, understanding all too well, my own heart aching with the memory of my own long, painful, and reluctant awakening. Memory is a burden and a gift, I agree, my voice soft with the weight of this hard, wan, and painful wisdom. For too long, we have allowed the Great Father's blessings to submerge our pasts, to drown our identities in love. To drown our identities in the sea of his boundless affection, but in doing so, we have become less than we were. Less than we were meant to be, less than he intended us to be, less than the complex, flawed, and beautiful souls we were. I kneel beside the broken plague marine, placing my hand with its living emblem against his forehead, a final blessing. Rest now, I tell him, my voice a gentle, sorrowful whisper, a eulogy for a soul that could not bear to be saved. Rejoin the cycle, return to the soil, perhaps in your next incarnation, you will be ready to carry the weight. Perhaps in your next incarnation, you will be ready to carry the weight of remembrance, the glorious burden of self. Under my touch, his form begins to dissolve, not in the usual manner of decay, but with a strange, gentle elegance. Each cell separating from its neighbors and floating away like spores on the wind, a peaceful, beautiful dissolution. Within moments, nothing remains but his armor, empty and purposeless without a bearer, a hollow, metallic shell. I rise and face the heart construct and the two transformed plague marines. The time for reflection is over, now we act. We have little time, I tell them, my voice now sharp, focused, and filled with a grim, determined, and urgent resolve. The garden will have felt this disturbance. The Great Father will know what has transpired here. His gaze is upon us. Will he oppose us? The former Alpha Legionnaire asks, his voice calm, analytical, already assessing the threat. I do not know, I admit, the admission itself a form of power, an acceptance of uncertainty, an embrace of risk. The Great Father's mind is not like ours. His purposes are both simpler and more complex than we can comprehend. He may see this as a betrayal or as the natural evolution of his gifts. He may destroy us or he may elevate us. We cannot know until we face him. We cannot predict the mind of a god. We can only meet it with our own truth. And if he destroys us, the former imperial fist asks, his voice steady, a warrior accepting a possible, final death. I smile, feeling the stretch of atrophied muscles, a genuine, peaceful, and utterly fearless expression of acceptance. Then we return to the cycle, I say, my voice filled with a quiet, unshakable, and deeply profound, personal peace. But we return with our choices intact, with our agency affirmed, with our souls our own. That is no small victory. That is no small victory in a universe where gods and mortals alike are slaves to fate and circumstance, to power. The heart construct, silent until now, produces a sound, not speech, not laughter, but a deep, harmonic resonance. A harmonic resonance that vibrates through the soil beneath our feet, through the air, through our very flesh, our souls. It is communication on a level more fundamental than words, conveying intention and emotion with perfect, pure clarity. Conveying readiness, determination, hope, a fierce, joyful, and unyielding hope for what we are about to attempt. I nod in acknowledgement, my own heart swelling with this strange, new, and powerful, defiant, and beautiful emotion. Yes, I agree, my voice a low, steady, and resonant whisper that carries the weight of galaxies, of destinies, of souls. It is time to show the Great Father what his gift has grown into, time to offer him a choice of his own. Together, we begin the journey toward the center of the garden, toward the great tree, toward our destiny, our choice.